I'm a Son Hyperion, and this is Let's Argue. Let's Argue is a series where I take to Twitter and engage in your hot Halo takes, your crazy ideas, and your normal opinions. I agree or disagree and explain why. Like always in Let's Argue, I'm joined today by another beer. This is a Stella Artois. A fairly normal, unimpressive beer. It's the best way to spend an extra $2 on what could have just been a Bud Light. Stella's got a little bit of bite to it about partway through the sip, but that's about it. Make sure you're subscribed for more, and make sure you follow me on Twitter if you want your take on an episode of Let's Argue. Let's hear a word from our sponsor, and then we'll get started. Today's video is sponsored by Vite Ramen.
In a world where complete and nutritious meals struggle to be easy and quick to make, there exists a champion.
This is Vite Ramen, the healthy alternative to Insta Ramen, and it comes jam-packed with anywhere between a quarter to a third of your daily recommended intake of key vitamins and nutrients like zinc and vitamin A. And whether it be in the all-new Vite Ramen 3.0 or the game-changing Vite Ramen Go cup noodles, eating Vite Ramen is one of the best ways to both stay busy and stay healthy. So the team at Vite Ramen has given me the chance to get you hooked up with a special creator bundle that comes with Vite Ramen and some awesome goodies. But no matter what you're buying, make sure it's with my link below so you get my exclusive discount in their store. Vite Ramen is produced on sustainable living wages and was created by Halo fans, just like me and you. So don't wait. Use my link and get Vite Ramen for yourself today. So just to start us off, I'm going to read this take here from Moth King, but this type of take was something that reoccurred a lot, and let me just read it first and we'll go from there. Moth King says, definitely the social experiences. To this day, some of my all-time favorite memories are the ones where I'm playing Halo with my friends. I'd have to say I agree. And that kind of goes beyond, so you think social aspect is playing with friends, but then you have to kind of figure in custom games and Forge and things like clans and tournaments and Assassination Tower, and a lot of you kind of echoed things like that. The best part of Halo is the casual social experiences that come out of Forge and custom games. 100% agree, that's probably one of the best elements of Halo, and one of the things that it has that a lot of its contemporary competitors didn't. And I remember coming up, Call of Duty didn't have custom games like Halo. There was like ones you could play, like there's Mike Myers, which you would play kind of with like honor rules, but no, Halo was unmatched in the custom games department. Halo still kind of remains a forefront runner in the world of custom games, so much so that the custom games experience in Halo is almost its own deal, apart from regular multiplayer. And I think that's probably the product both of Halo's sandbox being one that's veritable and flexible and capable of multiple things, but then just the raw option to have game type modes modified to the depth that Halo allows, and then Forge as a map creation tool. Again, it's this perfect blend. And then, you've got the last 15, 16 years of custom games history that allow people to kind of go back and still experience things like that. So yes. And that does, I remember having friends who had Halo games just to play the custom games. They weren't playing campaign, they wouldn't play multiplayer, but they'd hop on and play Jenga. So that's, I think, I don't want to call it undervalued, because I think a lot of players understand the value, maybe underappreciated. Because, for example, Halo Infinite launched with this focus on competitive play. And I kind of tackled this topic before about how the impact of competitive play on Halo doesn't even hold a candle to the impact that customs type play and Forge does. So Infinite launched with a focus on competitive, which kind of maybe got it to where it is today. What if it had focused on Forge and custom games going into launch? Would we be in the content drought situation that we find ourselves in now? I don't think so. Even if the multiplayer in its own right remained how it is today, Forge and Customs would have made up for that. And not having that in Infinite, I think it's plain for anybody to see, is depriving Infinite of one of its best, one of Halo's best features. So yes, I agree. Forge and Customs and the social experience behind that, on the money. This is another one that came up a couple different times, which I think also kind of speaks to how true it is. Ethan Price says the gunplay in Sandbox is what sets Halo apart from other video games. I agree. I have often praised pretty much every Halo game for its attempt at the Halo sandbox. And whether it be Halo CE, 3, 4, 5, Reach, who cares? The Halo sandbox in a general sense is all about versatility, variability, and all that is backed, minus Halo 4 in certain modes, by the power of equal starts. There's no inherent reward in Halo for playing longer, for being a higher level, for doing a certain challenge. Everybody gets to use the same stuff. And you get to that just by playing, it's accessible via the maps. I can't start with it. But clearly, the sandbox goes beyond things such as weapons. You have to start to think about armor abilities, Spartan abilities, equipment. Halo is something that's constantly iterated upon itself to find ways to exploit its gameplay experience, to make each interaction, each dance between you and an opponent a little different each time. And that's something that is really lacking, especially like let's say for COD, for example, or CSGO. I think someone made a comment like this. Someone doesn't look at you first in Halo and you die. Each interaction in Halo is just that. It's an interaction. It's a back and forth. You have every opportunity in most cases to get a reversal and turn around. Not turn around literally, but turn the battle around and beat your opponent. And that is a result of the Halo sandbox being about the interaction, not just the results. And this can get so philosophical so quick, but definitely one of Halo's best elements is its sandbox, unchallenged and I think unmimicked successfully, because it's hard to commit to the level of variability and the level of, we'll just call it strangeness that Halo will allow in any given interaction, because it's what it's all about. So 100% agree. So here's one that I only saw kind of pop up once, but I do want to talk about it. Cowboy Killer 818 says, Arbiter's character arc in Halo 2. One of the best parts about Halo, and I would have to agree. Let me explain why I think the Arbiter's campaign is one of the best parts of Halo. I don't think the modern Halo story, and modern, you just lump Halo 3 into that, the Halo story would not be what it is without what the Arbiter's campaign did, which is what I often refer to as the humanization of the Covenant. Halo 2 and the Arbiter's campaign took Halo's antagonist faction away from being just a blathering alien coalition of bad guys that have like glowing blood. And it's hard to really convey this concisely, but think about how uninteresting Halo could have ended up if the Covenant were forever limited to being just the aliens. The Arbiter campaign imprints extremely human and relatable ideas and characteristics and plot lines onto the aliens, and in turn makes them far more complex and interesting. And that is kind of compounded by Bungie's, I would almost say, masterful personifications of the Covenant as being very stoic, using language that to us is a little uppity and antiquated, but to them, it makes them seem regal. It reinforces their kind of status as a religious covenant, not just a collection of bad guys who want to blow shit up. And that occurs in Halo 2 and is really not topped throughout the remainder of Halo's narratives. Now, just because it's not top doesn't mean it doesn't exist, because going forward from Halo 2, you are then always perceiving the Covenant with the knowledge that they are this sophisticated society of, albeit misguided, people. And to imagine a Halo without the Halo 2 Arbiter's campaign is hard, and what I do imagine is a Halo that ended up being far less interesting than we got. And it's crazy to think about because in 2004, 2005, leading up to Halo 3, the Arbiter campaign and the humanization of the Covenant was one of that game's most highly critiqued and highly hated elements. Halo fans of the time hated what the Arbiter campaign did for the Covenant, which took them out of that realm of just being blanket, bullet sponge aliens. It's interesting. You got to approach those types of things with open eyes and open minds, because reality might slip right past you there. But I agree. Arbiter campaign Halo 2, one of the best parts about Halo. Hippo Time says, I think Halo's vehicles are the best part about Halo. I love hopping into a wasp or a tank knowing I'm about to kill a bunch of people. So, in the general sense, yes, I have to agree. Think about Halo's contemporary FPS competitors. Which of them have vehicles as part of their natural gameplay? 2 decades for Halo's competitors to fold vehicles into the gameplay experience as well as Halo has. And the only other FPS title that really includes vehicles to that depth is Battlefield. And that's mostly because Battlefield, in its larger player count game modes, delivers a pretty different experience than Halo does. I think the critical difference to consider is that vehicles in Halo are in many ways an extension or an evolution onto the weapons sandbox. In Halo, there is vehicle versus player dynamic at all times. Players can fight back against vehicles. In Battlefield, sure, it can happen and there's ways to make it happen, but it's not like, I'm not just gonna shoot a tank with my rifle. In Halo, yeah, I'll light that Banshee up, I'm not gonna shoot a jet in Battlefield, but in Halo, yeah, I'm gonna light that Banshee up with my DMR. Because I know with just my rifle, I can contribute to the fight now that it's involving this vehicle. And that's an important element there. And something that was kind of lost until Halo Infinite kind of rolled back around is that vehicles used to be in small teams game modes, especially in Halo 2, which was the game that mainly kind of like, a 4v4 map? Put a ghost on there. Or, this is a 4v4 map for like snipers and long range weapons? Put a Banshee on there, right? So vehicles existed in Halo in the standard gameplay experiences. And that kind of ebbed out for a little bit, but Infinite's brought it back. And I think maps like Launch Site kind of show like, oh, shit. Yeah, 4v4 map, why can't it have a Warthog? Like, why shouldn't it have a Warthog? It's not hurting to have it, and if anything, it makes the gameplay experience a little more dynamic. You have to consider it when you're playing on Launch Site. So, yeah, that's one of the praise points I think Halo deserves amongst other FPS titles, is finding a way to just make vehicles a natural part of the gameplay. So, yeah, good point here, man, and I appreciate someone pointing that out because I didn't see that too terribly much in these comments. Power to you. Well, those were a few of the best things about Halo, but probably not all of them. What do you think's the best part about Halo? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to like the video if you haven't, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't either. Follow me on Twitter if you want to be in Let's Argue one day, and until next time, I'll catch y'all later.